Back when we started in September with releasing more of the detailed data of the survival, we tried to show the survival curves as one of the more meaningful endpoints of this study. So of course after 18 months back then we didn't see a difference yet in the survival rate, but we were starting to see projections of more long-term survival benefits of ilixadencel as compared to the sunitinib control group. So now we are of course a few months further. And the positive news is that we are now in the mature part of the study where we are starting to see this separation actually taking place. And of course that further confirms the enthusiasm we have about the long-term benefit that ilixadencel might have on survival. And that's really, I think, in line with what immunotherapies have been doing in other studies, like checkpoint inhibitors that often show that the patients that are responding actually have a much better long-term survival. So that's why we think it's positive news that the survival data is now in line with what we have seen in September, and that indeed patients are starting to show this long-term survival. Now, of course, in terms of the median survival, we are not there yet. The data is not mature between the groups. We've tried to release as much of the information of the current survival status, and we will have to continue following patients to see this specific endpoint becoming final. But the way we see it, the survival curves are showing the whole story of a patient's survival, and in the end that would be more meaningful to a specific patient or a specific investigator on what ilixadencel is adding as value. So back in September we of course gave more detailed results, including duration of response and a specific breakdown of the observed response rate. Now the response rate that we have defined in this study was the objective response rate based on best overall response. So that's at any time point what the best response has been for a patient. And now in more late stage development, they tend to use the confirmed objective response rate, meaning that if you see a response, a tumor responding to the therapy, you only count it if it also is shown on the next scan, with a minimum of 4 weeks in between. So that's usually a more strict measurement of the response, and we've asked actually the CRO to look into this specific method of measuring the response rate, because we have seen this more deeper and durable response based on the September results. So that's one of the exciting additional analysis that we have performed that now shows that indeed most, if not almost all, responses that occurred in the ilixadencel treatment arm were indeed confirmed, while the control group, by just giving sunitinib, actually only had half of those responses confirmed, meaning a 24% response rate. So based on that analysis, we are starting to see a substantial difference, a meaningful difference in the response rate, and that's of course something we can now compare to, for example, the landscape in kidney cancer, where other studies have also used this type of measurement. So ilixadencel is of course ongoing in the Iliad combination study with checkpoint inhibitors. So in October we have completed the first cohort of only 3 patients at the lower dose level, showing no safety concerns in combination with pembrolizumab, the standard of care in these indications. We have since moved to the 10 million cells dose level, a dose level that we've used in other studies, and that's ongoing, and we expect to have a safety update in Q2 of 2020. Now that's important next step for us in terms of gathering more safety data in this specific combination. In parallel, around that time, we will also have the next survival update, the next survival update around mid of 2020. So that will further mature, of course, the survival data from the MERECA study. And in the meantime, we have submitted our data and our questions, our study design for the next phase to the authorities. So both the FDA and EMA we're going to have meetings with, and we're probably going to have feedback from the authorities also around that same time in mid-2020. So there's a lot of things ongoing in 2020 that will further determine the future of the company, but also the future next steps in development of ilixadencel.